All right, we're live. So it's good afternoon, good evening, or night. And I want to thank you all for being to the live. Thank you for the thumbs up. Our topic today, right? Our topic today will be conserving water in the garden. It's rather ironic or interesting that for quite a long period I've been telling persons that it's rather useful to have plants, especially around us. And especially in the summer, when majority of persons are complaining about being very hot, then the use of these plants can really assist. And for those persons who think they don't have a green thumb, in all honesty, I really don't believe in that. And it's possible because there are plants for everyone. And I think what is happening why some persons think they don't have a green thumb is because the time or the patience that some person would have with the plants, they don't have it. They really like to see the green, the lush, the flowers, the blooms. However, they don't have the time or the patience to really see these plants through its cycle. And I say this because being at that place, it was a place that sells orchids and air plants. And being at that place, it was really, really cool. You know, some persons have this thing to say that orchids die on them. However, in all honesty, I think orchids and succulents are one of the strongest plants that can manage neglect. All right, so with that said, we're now going to move into how we can conserve water in our garden. If you're like me, then you would really love to have a garden, or you have a garden and you just don't know how to care for it. Or another thing too is with the use of water, some persons decide that no, they don't want this garden. Other than it being too much work, it's going to cost them in terms of the water bill. Hi, Doris Vlog. Thank you for the thumbs up. Right. So they think it's going to cost them a lot for the water bill. But there are ways that you can really get around that and conserve the water that you use in your garden. Now, conservation in this sense doesn't mean that you're not going to water those plants or you're going to only get plants that you think don't want water any at all. And for those plants, it tend to be some persons tend to move along the line of succulents. And I can tell you, if you don't water those succulents, not as often as how you would water other plants, then they'll die too. They'll wilt and die. So all plants that you see there, they really do require some level of watering. Now, hi, Storm Chaser, thank you for being here. One of the thing with our gardens, like I say, is that we want this beautification. And there's a little saying that beauty comes with pain. Now, if you want that beautification, it means you have to give that plant or give those plants what they need. Now, one of the things that you can use is to use a sprinkler. And I find that when you use that sprinkler, because water from the sprinkler is not coming out in that great force, it's just moving around. Most sprinklers that I've seen really spins And while it's spinning, it gives periodic flashes of water, and the water is not heavy. So it goes around and it spins. Now, what happens is when it spins and it flashes out that just a small amount of water, what you find happening is the area will tend to absorb the water at a pace that it can manage. When you have the water coming out with a force, then what happens is the water doesn't get to soak in that soil. It tends to run off because it's too much and it's coming at a force. So one of the thing that is encouraged is that you use a sprinkler. And especially if you have the grass area that really need deep soaking at times. So it's really encouraged that you apply the water slowly and not forcefully. Another thing too that can assist your garden in terms of watering is install a drip irrigation, especially for those of us who have crops growing in the ground and you really don't have the time to come home, we understand what it is to leave work to come home, water these crops, and especially at this time, crops are needed. For my country, we're having an issue where vegetables and fruits are coming down. Well, from now on, we're going to have a problem getting these fruits and vegetables. And if you really think about it, these things are really necessary for your body to get the additional nutrients that it need. Now you have some persons who that won't really affect them because they have been planting and their only issue is the watering aspect of it. So it would be good if you can set up your little drip irrigation and especially now that you find that the time has changed, then it will work out for you because then you won't have to rush come home from the traffic and then know when you do reach home, it's rather dark. So you may find that you really don't want to go outside to have this watering or to do this watering. It may be easier if you had. Hi, Motorola King, thank you for coming to the live. It may be easier if you had a drip irrigation system going. Now, don't believe that a drip irrigation system has to be connected to your garden pipe. It doesn't have to be. Your garden faucet, no. It doesn't have to be. If you watch the vlogs, then you'll know that you can set up a drip irrigation system from even a barrel, um, leading from that barrel, pumping it from that barrel with a solar panel to just water your crops or your plants in the garden. And you can set it up near your gutter if you have a guttering system there to catch the water in the barrel. So you can so far we learn about two things that you can do, which is a sprinkler, and the sprinkler is able to give that deep soak, as well as you can go the drip irrigation route. It will be easier and yet beneficial to save you some time. Now, another thing too is for those of you who practice to plant in pots or containers, you can try to use containers that save water. Now, let me explain to you what I mean. There are some containers when you plant in them, the water, if you notice that they especially I think it's a terracotta pots. When you water your plant in them, the terracotta pots will be wet. Now, if you get the glazed terracotta containers, then you won't have to worry. The water, it won't lose water through the pores or the the pot itself, it will require you to water your plants a little less because of those terracotta pots. However, the terracotta pots must be glazed. Please remember that, because in the terracotta pots that are not glazed, you will lose the water easily and quickly. And there are some pots as well. Um, you will find that you need to water quite often. Sometimes it's best if you can, when you do plant in these pots that allow your water to evaporate quickly, then try using a little mulch in the container. Or what I find that have been working for me is to plant they call them plant fillers. So you plant the plant fillers inside of those pots, and what will happen is that it will mat and grow inside, just the top of the flower pot, while your plants grow out of that. It does give a nice look as well. However, it will allow the water in that soil not to evaporate as quickly. So you can try that as well. Another thing is rain harvesting. You find that in some areas and in some countries as well, persons have to harvest their rainwater just to be able to get even drinking water. Now, for me, I don't do that level of rainwater harvesting. What I do with my rainwater is I catch it in the barrel that I tell you that I have, and that is used as a drip irrigation or just to water my plants. I normally set up buckets at times, and these buckets I would use over a period of time. After the rain has had fallen, I don't water the plant immediately after the rain have fallen. I would cover it, because you don't want to breed up mosquitoes or things like these in the buckets that you have these rainwater catch in. So you can wait a period of time. Probably you'll see it in the soil. You'll see it that your soil needs that watering, because you'll see it look dried out. And then you just scoop up some of the water from the bucket and water your plants. You don't need a lot of watering right there if you use the rainwater. And what I find as well that is happening is that sometimes you have the the rain when it falls, the plants take a little while before they need another set of watering again. While if you use your the water from your faucet, it may need watering quicker than you can anticipate. Now, another thing I've told you before is, in order to conserve water is to add mulch. I told you when I was telling you to choose your containers, I told you as well that for me, I use, hi Wanderlust, thank you for coming to the live. I told you that I used the plant fillers in the containers. So when I have my plants there, I use the plant fillers. Other than that, I would have used the mulch. And the mulch will help it to retain that moisture. It won't make it saggy, but it can be used to retain that moisture. And actually, you'll be surprised at some of the things that can be mulch. For me, because I have the trees, the leaves fall. And when the leaves fall, wherever they fall in the dirt area, I don't remove them as readily, because I want that area to remain with a little moisture. Morning again. With a little moisture. So you really don't want to remove it. And that's what the mulch is able to do. And please remember, A lot of things can be mulch. You can have the leaves, like I tell you. You can also even use the wood chip. There's a lot of things that you can use. Some persons use the grass. Thank you, Wanderlust. Some persons use the grass cuttings. However, I would really warn you to be careful how you use the grass cuttings, because sometimes the grass cuttings have weeds inside of them. So if you know your grass is natural, natural grass cutting and you're weed free, then you can use the grass cuttings for mulch. It will really help the plants. It will really help them to retain the moisture that is in that soil. Now, another thing that you can do to conserve the watering in your garden is to water your plants really in the afternoon, and that is after the sun has gone down. And it's really advisable that you do that, because you don't want to water. Well, some persons would tell you that they water in the morning. However, I find that when I water in the early morning, the sun would really take out all that moisture out of the soil, and in the evening again I would need to water. So what is recommended that you do is water in the evening, in the afternoon, when the sun has gone down or the sun has left that part of your plant, so that during the night as well, all that watering that you have done will actually find its way down inside the soil, so that it will be beneficial. See, you need to consider that as well. You don't want to be watering twice per day, morning and evening, because in the morning, the sun would really take out all that moisture out of the soil. So just water once. As a matter of fact, you don't, sometimes when you do that, you don't need to water every day. You don't need to. Because some plants can tolerate being watered probably once per week, and but especially if it is summer, you probably need to water more, especially because of the summer. The summers are hot. Now, another thing that you can do is make sure that you replace or you reduce your lawn. Now, it is always advisable that your lawn, when you're cutting it, you don't cut it too low to the ground. If you cut it too low to the ground, what will happen is whenever you water, the water will evaporate quickly because of the sun. So the best thing to do is to have your, I think the height is 2 inch. Yeah, I think it is recommended that you maintain your grass at a 2 inch level. It's like you adding that grass straw to your planter area. Motorola King is saying, Wanderlust is saying she agrees. Motorola King is saying, which grass would you suggest to plant considering the drought that we have every year? I can tell you, Motorola King, a drought tolerant grass is that I found is the crabgrass. However, some hi GK vlog, thank you for coming to the live. However, the crabgrass is seen as a parasite in some countries. While it maintains that green, especially during the hot summer sun, it is seen as a parasite, and because of that, some persons tend to stay away from it. However, of note, it is to mention that the crabgrass have many different varieties, many different varieties. And if you find the one that is suitable for a lawn area, then it would be good. However, and then another thing too with the crabgrass is it needs less cutting. You don't have that height that they are speaking about. You don't have it growing 2 inches. You don't have it like that. It tends to lay flat on the soil. Wonderless is saying makes sense. Yeah. All right. The grass that I have is the zoysia grass, and I find that once you have it at a particular height, it will maintain that moisture inside of it. Every now and then, as a matter of fact, I have it on a calendar as to some other things that needs to be done to my grass area. I don't really cut my grass areas often unless I have, quite a number of days when I have rain, then it will grow fast. However, in the summer heat, it is recommended that you do minimal cutting, minimal if any at all, because you don't have the grass growing as fast. Yes, storm chaser, really, you don't have the grass growing as fast. And because it's not growing as fast, it is not recommended that you cut it as often, or you just leave it because it won't grow. There's a time when it is really dormant, and you can study your grass, you can understand your grass once it's in your yard, and it doesn't need a lot of watering. I thought that the zoysia grass needed a lot of watering. It doesn't. It really doesn't. Now, another thing too is they say you can choose the plants that you have, or choose the plants that you decide to grow in your garden. And that too is beneficial. If you know you have a problem, if you know you have a problem taking care of some plants, then choose the one that can manage neglect. Choose those. And you have quite a number of plants that they do look nice, they do look good, and they can manage neglect. I've seen right now I have a pumpkin vine growing, and I have not watered that pumpkin vine for quite a while. And as a matter of fact, I didn't even plant that pumpkin. Um, Storm Chaser is saying it would be the same as certain type of flowers in terms of watering. Yes, yes, it does. Because if you have a succulent, you water it less. You don't water succulent as much as how you would water other plants. You don't, right? You don't really water succulent as how you would water other plants. And it's really advisable that you don't, because you lose it. What will happen is the root will rot. I had previously, um, I had previously, you would probably see it on the vlog where I had created a vertical, planter whole area that I can plant my things vertically, and I have been planting some things on it. I've had herbs and spices on it. However, I have now resorted to moving that to place succulents on it. And because I find that the succulents are doing great on that area. It's an area where I can, because they are in some pots, I can easily, if I decide that I don't want the succulents there today, I can easily change it. Now, there are some herbs that will require quite a good amount of water, while some herbs doesn't like it. So you can decide whatever it is that you plant. If you know you can't manage the constant watering or the periodical watering, then there are plants that you can get. And for me, I don't plant annuals. I tend to plant perennials, so my plants will always be there unless something happens and would disturb it, then it would probably die, but or the sun, then I try my best to plant a bit of everything. Some of what some persons call delicate, some of what some persons call sturdy or drought resistant, and then I plant the ones as well that requires water. So that's it for choosing your plants. Another thing that is good is that we can we have what is called sometimes we try to recycle our household water. And I've seen where persons have, instead of washing their plates in a sink, hi JNC channel, thank you for the like. Right. So instead of washing their plates in the sink so that water goes down that drain, they have opted to wash their plates, their pots, their pans in some pans. And washing the plates and the pots and the pans in that pan itself, then they have the opportunity to lift up that water and throw it away. You have some persons as well who, hi, Mama Mary, thank you for being here. You have some persons as well who will use the washing water and lead it out into the garden. And that works too. I have tried that. However, what I should have done is make it possible that some of my I think they call that water gray water, right? They call it gray water. I think what is best at times is for you to have your gray water piped to those areas. So instead of you having the task of lifting up that wash water or lifting up that water that you use to wash your plates and carrying it to throwing it into some of those plants that you have, then it's really best at times that you just channel it to begin with. If you haven't expanded on your home as yet, you can probably consider that. If you are someone who you plan to do a lot of planting for many different reasons, you can probably channel your gray water to those areas. Now, we have come up with a lot of ways and a lot of reasons how to conserve that water in the garden. And it's really beneficial for us because, especially at this time, we're going to need that. Now, another thing that we can do is, and I told you already, to not mow your lawn too low. And I told you the reason for doing that. Mowing your lawn too low will mean that the water evaporates out of it quicker than it usually should. You can also plant in blocks. And this is what I mean. So you have a particular area where you need plants there. You need to beautify that area. And you decide that you want to plant flowering plant. It's advisable that you plant things together because you don't want one set of plant there. You'd want multiple different plants. Probably you want a plant that produce red, or you want a plant that produce yellow, things like that. So you want variety. You don't want one set of thing right there. Hi Giselle, thank you for being to the live. Yeah, it's good evening here. We're going into night. As a matter of fact, we're into night now. Thank you for coming. Right. So the best thing to do is to plant your plants that are similar together. If you want a succulent garden, plant those succulents together. Don't plant your succulents with plants that need a lot of watering, because what will happen is, while your succulents don't need that water and your other plants do, you will kill the succulent. And if you neglect your succulent by not watering it, the other plant that needs the water will be neglected too. So it's best to plant similar things together. And one of the reasons why some persons really think that they don't, yeah, I understand, Giselle, the ads. One of the things too why some persons feel that they can't or they don't have the green thumb is because they don't understand the plant that they are planting. And I say this because I thought that I couldn't grow orchids. And it's because I didn't understand it. I thought that I had to get up and water my orchids daily. And if I don't water it, then I know that it will die. That's what I thought. However, that isn't it with orchids. Orchids don't need a lot of water. I grow also pineapples, and I realized that when I place the pineapples at a certain area in the yard, they will live only for a while. They can't come to fruit because that area is on a slope. And we'll speak about that shortly, because that's also a conservation method that we need to look out for. Now, I find that when I plant those pineapples in a particular area, they die. They get root rot. And it also brings to mind now the other conservation method is it is advisable that when you do have your garden, you have a bit of a slope. You have a bit of slope on your garden. And let me tell you the benefit of that. Now, it can be at a advantage or a disadvantage depending on where you on how you look at it. And let me explain. It can be an advantage where, because it's on the slope, then all the rain, if the rain should fall, all the rainwater will not form a puddle in your garden. It will just run off easily and run to where you want it to go. So if you have the slope and lead the slope to the outside, yes, the rain will catch your garden. However, it will it will run off. The excess will run off and run away from your garden. Hi, Michaela. Thank you for being here. And the disadvantage of it is you have to be careful where you have this water settling. If you have plants that if you have plants that don't like a lot of water, you can't place those plants at the end of the slope, because what will happen is all that water will end up terminating right there. While it will soak away, depending on what you have right there, then you might have a problem, because that plant had already gathered as much water or too much water than it can really manage. And that was what was happening with the pineapples that I had when I planted them at the end of that slope. So what was happening is some water was settling there, and the pineapples can't manage that. It can't. So what happened was it got root rot and eventually it died. So what I find now that has been working there are some oregano. Um, Smart, Giselle is saying, Smart, can I ask when planting in the red soil good? I can tell you, Giselle, that red soil tend to be good for things like, what's the name of it? Thyme. because it's sort of clay, it has been really good for the time. You know, that seasoning, the time, it's really good for it. And sometimes what I tend to tell people, you can mix the soil. You can mix the soil. That red soil tend to dry out easily. And the thyme plant really works well in it. There are other plants that will work well in it as well. Um, about seasonal climate. When remember that we really have the spring season. So what I tend to do is plant in spring. So I plant in about March area, March month thereabout, and I realize that my things tend to come easily in that time of the month. I tend to plant before May comes in. We would normally here we would have a rainy May month. So I tend to plant before the May. Things have been changing since of lately, where May tend not to be a May month anymore. But March is a good time to plant before the end of March. So um, whenever you have your spring months, that's a good time to plant. Giselle is saying she saw brown color soil. I have brown color soil. I do have brown color soil. I have also the red soil as well. And as a matter of fact, in some parishes in my country, they only have the red soil and they do plant any and anything, any and everything in that soil. I really do. I have probably a pan of high future X. I have really a pan of red soil here at home. My soil at home is brown. It's brown. I have a pan with red soil, and I really want that one to plant my thyme plant in, because I realize that it does well in it. I have gotten that red soil as well, that someone just stick some pieces of rosemary in, and it grow. It grow. Um, Future X is saying, just checking in, my friend, before going to bed. Thank you for being here. Giselle is saying, I think much better if the brown soil is used for planting. Um, to tell you the truth, Giselle, there are, like I said, there are parishes in my country that don't have that brown soil, and there are farming communities. You have farming communities that don't have that brown soil, and that's where we or persons in my country get our food from. What about planting for flowers? They plant flowers as well. The prettiest set of flowers come from some of these areas that have that red soil. I have brown soil at home. As a matter of fact, I realized that there are two type of brown soil. Um, Future X is saying, keep safe everyone, guys. And she's saying, morning, night. Right. I have two type of brown soil, and I realized that one of those brown soil especially, it really retain moisture. So I have to be careful. That's the soil that they sell, because they do sell soil here. Um, Giselle is saying, yeah, even Philippines, difficult brown soil. But like I say, Giselle, persons have been planting in those brown and red soil. There are areas in my country that only have that red soil. And in those areas, they farm just about any and everything. I've seen in some parishes, you have what's it name? Melons growing in that brown soil, or yam. Because I purchased a piece of yam in the market recently, and it's all red dirt. And some of these persons sell you plants as well, and the plants are lovely. Sometimes, Giselle, I'm honestly afraid of taking the plants from that side of the country because I am afraid that if I carry it to my side of the country, it won't grow. It won't grow because of the change in soil. So sometimes when persons send me a plant, I tend to ask them to put it in a little container before I take it home. Yeah, in different Giselle is saying, yeah, in different areas they have brown soil. Could me maybe a near beaches or river? Um, no, those I'm not near to well, I'm nearer to a beach than a river. And I think my soil is brown based on probably the area. So you find that especially the areas with the red soil, they tend to do bauxite mining there for those red soil. However, the brown soil where I am, they don't do that bauxite mining because there's no bauxite there. But I really honestly don't think it matters the red or the brown soil. What I think is good is whichever soil you're using, I think it's best for us to understand the type of soil that we have. And it may mean that if we use a particular soil, more nutrients need to be placed on those plants that we plant in those particular soil. Because I know, like for my plants, I tend to use some fertilizer in them, and especially when I buy some plants, they come with fertilizer. Thank you, Letisa, for watching the ads. Thank you for the like as well. And she's saying good morning, everyone. So I realized that Giselle, sometimes the plant itself, it depends on where you are and whatever plant. Thank you for watching the ads. And it depends on where you are. The plant will strive based on where you are. However, moving it from thank you for the good morning. It's actually good night here in my country, right? So wherever you are, if you're moving a plant from an area that has that red dirt to an area that has that brown soil, it's best sometimes if you get the plants planted in a container and then gradually after a while then you introduce it to your soil with that red soil in it, so it's like you're mixing the soil so that it doesn't get that level of shock. But that's one of the things that you can do. Now, we had spoken about grouping our plants by the water needs, and that is very important for persons who feel that they can't plant anything because they don't have that green thumb. Then you can probably think of planting things that don't need a lot of water. There are some plants that don't look like succulents. However, they are from that type of family itself. We can plant those as well. Because I have some plants that they state that they are for indoors. However, I realize that when I plant them outside and they are more exposed to the sun, they really grow aggressively. However, when they are indoors, they grow slower because that's happening to my succulent. Giselle is saying here in my area, there they are not planted until the soil is not good because it depends on the plant. Yes, it will depend on the plant. And it and that's a thing too, that persons tend to say, Giselle, that their soil is not good. It's good enough. It's good, but you just need to find the right plant that can manage that soil. Or if you put another plant there, it may mean that it needs more nutrients that you have to supply that soil, that soil doesn't have. And I'll give you an example. If you have a planter box, and in that planter box you plant things like, so you created this planter box and you put your soil in, you get this nice good soil and you plant in there cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, those type of plants, and probably pak choy. You plant those type of plants in, all in that planter box, and they came out lovely. You got some lovely heads of cabbage, some nice cauliflower, some lovely broccoli, and some lovely pak choy, nice and big and fat. Whenever that crop is finished, if if you should plant back those same thing there, it won't come. And the reason is, and I think that is what is happening with some of the soil, why we say, oh, it's not good. The reason is, when you plant the first set of broccoli, cauliflower, and cabbage, and pak choy right there, all of those things are taking out some nutrients from that soil. And that is why sometimes it's advisable that you do crop rotation. So if you plant those things there in your planter box, the next time you're planting, you need to find out what it is that those plants originally took from the soil, so that the next plant you put in there, it can put it back, and it will be able to thrive in that soil that the cabbage and the cauliflower and the broccoli took out of it in the first place. And that's what happens. And that is why sometimes you find that whenever farmers are tilling a soil, they add whatever nutrients it is that the plants that they are using. Thanks again, Future X. Um, that the plants need before they plant. So possibly you get the soil that some of the nutrients is out. And especially for those where the nutrients are out, think of planting things that don't mind that, and those things that will put back in the soil that is missing. Giselle is saying, mostly in my place are carrots, tomato, cabbage, and some vegetables. Right. And especially the cabbage, Giselle, the cabbage tend to take that nutrient out of the soil. Because then you see, in my area, it is advised that when you plant, especially those things that are of the cabbage family, you have to plant peas and beans after that in that soil, after you remove the cabbage and whatever it is that you plant that is in that cabbage family. It's advisable that you plant peas and beans in that area. And the reason why is that because the cabbage had already taken out all of the beneficial nutrients, the peas and beans that you plant there will put it back in. So after you reap those peas and beans, then you can plant back your cabbage or things that belong to the cabbage family right back there. And that is what is advisable. So while you say that mostly in your place there are carrots and tomatoes and cabbage, you have to be careful as to how you plant some of these things. You can't plant them constantly. You have to break and plant something else that the soil will be able to get back something out of. Other than that, you may need to put things in the soil that will replenish whatever it is that those fruits and vegetables had taken out. And if you really think about it too, um, one of the things with these plants or the fruits and vegetables that we're planting is we need to be able to sustain ourselves with them. And sustenance will mean the farmers splitting their farms into sections. So where they may have a section where they plant probably carrots, a section where they plant the cabbage, another section where they do the tomato, and another section where they plant something else. However, they will probably change the areas where they plant certain things time and time again. Um, Giselle is saying, I don't have land to plant, but I just like to know, just in case, tips coming from Smart. Another thing too, Giselle, I don't have or I don't use a lot of land space to plant, and I've gotten a lot of things here by just planting them in buckets. And I have to do the same for myself when I plant in the buckets. I have to plant in such a way that whenever I do plant my cabbage and those cabbage come up, I can't plant that cabbage in that bucket. I can't. I have to plant something else. I have I have taken the chance sometimes to plant one thing more than once in a particular area, and I'll only do it sometimes with the pineapples, where I will remove a pineapple from the pineapple came up, it gave me a nice size pineapple, and then after I took out that, then I will plant back a sucker there. I have gotten away with it where it works. However, I don't do that for other crops that I plant. Um, Giselle is saying, yes, different section here in my place that veggie I saw planting. Yes, they do sectionalize them, and it's best for them to sectionalize them so that things will grow. And remember, hi Bernard, thank you for coming. Remember, another thing too, Giselle, is if you should go to the market to buy some of these crops, you're not going to want the little flimsy one. And these things happen because where we plant some things, the soil is already, it's already drained. The nutrients that the plants want has already come out of it. And because of that, it's advised that just rotate the crops. It will work. Thank you for being here, Bernard. Please remember to click to press the thumbs up button so that we can get our thumbs up and spread all of this to other persons and areas. Right. So Giselle, you don't have to have the land space to plant. Buckets can do it, or flower pots. And it doesn't matter what you plant, doesn't. Because I've planted carrots in buckets. A lot of things that I've planted in buckets, and it does work. And I've reaped from bucket. Right now I have a yam that I intend to watch growing in a bucket. It won't come out to be a huge piece of yam, but it will feel like yam. It will feel like yam. So we have to look on things like these in order to assist our gardens to grow. Um, the last thing we spoke about was to group plants by the watering needs, and grouping them by the watering needs, it will work. All right. Another thing too that is advisable is water your plants based on the weather. So watch the weather as well. Um, I think I need to apply this too because some evenings when I do come home and I look on my plant and I see that my plants need some watering. However, the time would look cloudy enough that rains look like it's about to fall. Sometimes I don't take that chance with the rain. I still, if it's even a little bit of water, I apply to my plants. And I think I am like that. That advice to water based on the weather, um, it I don't trust a weatherman telling me that rain is going to fall because I've had instances where weatherman tell me that, oh, rain is going to fall, and I see the clouds looking as if, yes, the weatherman is in fact right. However, days I haven't gotten rain, and every day it looks cloudy, like the rain is going to fall, and yet I didn't get any rain. And I've lost a number of plants that way. I have lost a number of plants that way, and it was rather painful. I almost lost my banana this trip to drought. I think what saved my banana was the compost because when the rainfall it didn't soak that area fully. And because of that I find that my bananas I'm not getting as much as I used to. But what luckily it came up with suckers, so I will try my best to at least monitor those suckers carefully to make sure that those don't happen like what is happening to the mother plant itself. So I'll watch that carefully. Now, another thing that is recommended, it's not advisable, it's recommended, is that we have a water gauge, a rainwater gauge. And the reason why you really want to look on this gauge, a rainwater gauge can really tell you how much rain did fall in your area. If one, it is really recommended that 1 inch in that rain gauze is beneficial for your plants. So if you have 1 inch of rain, your plants are good for quite a number of days to come. You can't stay where you are without a rain gauge to say, oh, we get a lot of rain. I don't need to water for days. No, you can't stay where you are and tell that. So it's advisable sometimes if you especially want to monitor the amount of rain that your plants get, is to get a rain gauge. And you can't place a rain gauge under a house, under its cantilever, or under a tree. No, a rain gauge is best for an open area. So you place it on that in that open area, and when the rain fall, it will catch in there. If it doesn't catch in there, then you didn't get 1 inch of rain. You can tell how much rain that you get from that. Um, Another thing too is to install a water timer. I remember I told you that I do have a water timer. However, my water timer is on my drip irrigation system, and it has helped. My drip irrigation system is okay, Giselle. I'm about wrapping up as a matter of fact. Thank you for being here. Right. Um, my drip irrigation system is on a timer and it's also solar powered. So when the rain falls, I even if the timer should go off where I can get the water dripping from that rain barrel. It won't. Thank you, Giselle. And I hope you say you have a scheduled monthly checkup. I hope everything is well. Thanks again. Right. So you can set it up in such a way that your water timer doesn't waste water. Sometimes some persons have that water timer and it's on the faucet, and because it's on the faucet, even when the rain is falling, their plants are being watered. You don't want that. So set it up in such a way that is beneficial for you. All right. Now I've I've given you quite a number of ways that you can save water in your garden. And it doesn't have to be um not watering any at all. I've given you a number of ways that you can save this water. And I would really love for you to apply it. Even if you have plants planting around the house or in buckets or even in your lawn area, and they do work. They do work. There's only one that I probably need to probably have more confidence in, and it's in the watering based on the weather. And it's probably because our weather is so unpredictable. I can't place my reliance there. I want to thank you again for coming to the live, and I hope you did, in fact, learn something from it. And as usual, I want to really, really thank you for your participation, for those who participated, or for those who just sit and listen to the content. Thanks again, and I want to say have a good night, good morning, or good evening. Thanks again, wherever you are all over the world.